Yes, rightly mentioned that professor always liked to talk standing, right? Thank you so much for inviting me to this very important event. And few things I would like to begin with. To begin with, on the topic that we are talking, Viksit Bharat 2047, two important statements by two statesmen. Firstly, our Honorable Prime Minister mentions we cannot achieve the results of 21st century with 20th century mindset. Therefore, mindset is very critical. Secondly, I would like to quote our External Affairs Minister, Dr. Shankar ji, who mentioned, we are very fortunate to be living in a country where India defines its own interest, articulates its own position, and takes decision that suits India. And that to me is a very, very critical thing of what we are going to talk now. Today, Bharat is in transformational stage. Of course, we all are talking that, and no, we will soon be the third largest economy, we are the fastest growing economy, but our growth is not merely based on GDP. Our growth is also based on ensuring dignity and opportunity to each of the citizens of India. In the morning, during diplomat session, we talked about two aspects. Two Ds were mentioned. It was mentioned that India is democracy, India has demography. We also know that India has two other Ds, that is demand and development. And with these four, strongly backed by the reform, perform, transform, and inform mindset of the government, on four critical pillars, the country is growing very rapidly. That I will like to highlight. First pillar, infrastructure. An infrastructure that can be physical, that can be digital, that can be social, an infrastructure that connects. I will spend a lot more time on infrastructure as you go ahead. Second aspect of the pillar is growth. Growth of the country that is inclusive. The third pillar is focus on manufacturing, a sector that shall create jobs. And the fourth and the very, very important pillar is simplification of processes and rules that empower citizens. Let me start with infrastructure. This year, our infrastructure budget is more than 11.2 lakh crore. We are putting a lot more emphasis on infrastructure. Let us look at what all has been happening. And I want to make firstly a statement that the growth is not merely the number or the amount that we are spending, but the technology-enabled transformation that is driving this country. Let us look at railway sector. Around 70,000 route kilometer of length with around 140,000 of the total route length. We have upgraded more than 23,000 kilometers of our railway tracks that can carry speeds more than 130 kilometers per hour. We have upgraded close to 46,000 kilometers of our railway tracks that can carry speeds of 110 kilometers per hour. Why it is necessary? On one side, we want to introduce newer trains like Vande Bharat that can be of the speed of 160 kilometers per hour and so on. Other side, if there are tracks that cannot support them, then we are limited. Therefore, this is a critical infrastructure. This 140,000 kilometers of railway track needs daily 24/7 maintenance practices. That is an important part of infrastructure. Very recently, within railways, we introduced first locomotive for freight of the capacity of 9,000 horsepower. It is necessary because our current challenge in railway sector is if both the passenger trains and the goods train are running on the same track, then we cannot increase the passenger train's average speed because there is a limitation of the goods train speed. On an average, passenger train's speed may be in the order of 50 to 60 kilometers per hour on an average, whereas goods train are currently at a speed of 25 to 30. In the theme, logistics is a very, very important part, and now I am trying to bring logistics. Railway carries currently 27% of our goods traffic. Freight is absolutely important, and for logistics efficiency that he talked about, from 14% of GDP to a developed country that should be 8% of GDP, personally I call that 14 minus 8% as an avoidable expenditure. Today, out of 4 trillion economy size that we have, dollar, if we are having 6% of this avoidable expenditure, look at what will happen when we become a 40 trillion economy by 2047 if we don't take any action. And that is why there is an action in infrastructure sector. That is why there is an action. And therefore, one of the mechanisms to improve logistics efficiency and logistics improve upon logistics cost is increase railways modal share into national logistics from currently 27% to 45%. Why? Because railways incur 1/3 of the cost that may be needed when you have logistics carried out on the roads. Inland waterways are also in the same nature. Railways is one of the most environment friendly as well when you carry goods from one place to other. And therefore, government's focus has been on shifting more and more goods traffic from highways to railways so that we can improve on logistics cost. For that, dedicated freight corridor of 2,843 kilometers has been introduced both on the eastern sector and the western dedicated. Apart from 110 kilometers, is almost complete. This 2,843 kilometers of dedicated freight corridor is only 4% of the railway network, but already carrying 12% of the freight of the Indian railways. That means the initiatives and the approaches we took in trying to segregate the passenger and freight traffic are yielding results. Moment we desegregate and segregate passenger traffic in a different then we are able to operate passenger trains at a much faster speed. Therefore, passenger travel can become much more convenient, affordable, faster. Further, in railway sector, I talked about locomotives. There is tremendous focus on improving the coach quality, replacement of all the ICF coaches by LSB, you must have heard that. Introduction of newer trains on one side of Amrit Bharat trains, that one can talk about premier, most technology-enabled trains, on other side of Amrit Bharat trains. Station redevelopment of, we have more than 7,300 stations, 1,300 of them are undergoing. Why they are undergoing? It is not a beautification project. It is because these railway stations are nerve centers of that particular city's economy. They are at the center of that particular area. And if we can develop a station as an economic hub, as a cultural hub of the city, then the entire infrastructure sector leads to a multifold multiplier effect into development. So whether on locomotives, we are now going to manufacture, and last year we manufactured number of locomotives more than what was manufactured by Europe plus US put together. On coaches, introduction of newer trains, dedicated freight coaches, that is the railway sector. You look in the metro sector. From where we were 10 years back, at 248 kilometers, we have now expanded to 23 cities with more than 1,000 kilometers. So there is a rapid pace of expansion in metro sector as a primary form of urban transportation. Delhi Merit, RRTS, Namo Bharat is yet another example of urban transportation model and what we can do. If we look in aviation sector, number of airports, we have grown from 74 to 162. Plus, under the regional connectivity scheme UDAN, 350 small cities will be connected to airports. For the first time in India, 5 lakh passengers took air travel in the month of February for the first time. So there is a tremendous growth. If you look at Air India, Indigo, and Akasa, they themselves put together, they have ordered 1,300 new aircraft. Therefore, the next infrastructure challenge is, of course, currently these aircraft may be made elsewhere. But we need aircraft maintenance engineers to maintain them. For the first time in India, an aircraft manufacturing facility, assembly manufacturing facility, by a private sector is started with Tata Advanced Systems Limited with Airbus collaboration and manufacturing C-295 military transport aircraft in India, 56 of which are ordered for Indian Air Force. That means manufacturing, even aircraft manufacturing has started happening in India, not merely for the railways. In the maritime sector, our 12 major ports and 200 minor ports that carry 90% of our international trade have cut down by half the turnaround time. The time that a ship comes and things are evacuated to things are put again back, we have cut down by 50%. That is undergoing significant expansion. With the recent Vizhinam Port, one of the biggest transshipment hub, with the recent announcement at 76,200 crore rupees of Vadhavan Port, shall be a port that will strongly support multimodal connectivity because dedicated freight corridor is next to it, national highway is next to it. Therefore, truly multimodal approach for logistics cost bring down we are going to do. If you look in inland waterways, 14,500 kilometers of inland waterways, most efficient, energy efficient, and the lowest cost versions are getting developed through Inland Waterway Authority. To summarize, in entire physical infrastructure space, not merely transformation, the technology-enabled transformation. If you look at Pamban Bridge, India's first vertical lift bridge. If you looked at Chenab Bridge, world's highest railway arc bridge. If you looked at Anji Bridge, India's first cable-stayed railway bridge. These are technological marvels and signifies India's engineering excellence. They are not merely how much rupees we spend. It is our progress in scientific world. Now I talk about digital infrastructure. We all know our DPI is very well known, digital public infrastructure, whether on the identity infrastructure in terms of Aadhaar that more than 140 crore people already have, or our transaction infrastructure in UPI where we have 60 crore transactions happening every day, or we have services like DigiLocker or DigiYatra that are empowering our citizens. Our digital public infrastructure is something that is homemade and conveys again the technological and engineering superiority of what India can do. If today India is investing in India AI mission with more than 34,000 GPUs building our own large language models because India want to achieve, if India is investing in 6G mission, in quantum mission, because now we have a belief we can do it. I just want to remind you of one very, very important thing that is very close to my heart. You might have remembered Chandrayaan-2 mission. Due to a last-minute minor hiccup, we were not successful to the end. And what did the Prime Minister do? The then ISRO chairman, he hugged and told. And Chandrayaan-3, of course, within very few months, it succeeded. That story just conveys that as a country, we have now started to take risk, and we are okay to take risk as we make progress for technological worlds. Not all of NASA's missions were successful. Therefore, risk-taking is absolutely important as we grow. That is the hallmark of our digital infrastructure. If you talk of social infrastructure, last 10 years itself, 490 new universities were created. Number of AIMS in the country increased from 7 to 23. There are schools built, there are hospitals built, there are infrastructure, it is happening. If you look at the Ujjwala scheme, again, how the number of LPG cylinders changed the life of so many women in the villages. If you look at Nal Se Jal scheme, it's a transformational. If you look at the number of toilets built, transformational. If you look at PM Kisan Samman Nidhi scheme, 13 crore farmers got benefit. Therefore, across physical, social, and digital infrastructure, we have grown very rapidly. Our growth that I talked about, inclusive growth, I already highlighted. Manufacturing sector. Just 3 examples quickly give. Electronic manufacture has increased by 6 times. Today, we are number 2 mobile manufacturer in the world. We talk about defense manufacturing, it has increased and close to 30,000 crore. Now we are. Through Srajan schemes and many more MSMEs are participating. If you look in semiconductor manufacturing, because you simply look at a car today, a car's cost today, 40% cost is electronics and semiconductor, not mechanical. Therefore, semiconductor is a very, very critical aspect. 6 semiconductor units that government has announced are fundamental. Through Skill India mission, we are investing more than 1 lakh crore for skilling objectives. Because you can have capital, you can have technology, you also need talent. So all the 3 aspects we are moving very, very strongly. To summarize, through national logistics policy, the mindset that I talked about, Honorable Prime Minister mentioned, PM Gati Shakti initiative is a technology-enabled platform using geospatial technology to bring ministries together so that we can plan infrastructure project better. If we do better planning, our execution will be better, and therefore we can achieve our infrastructure project execution at the specified cost without any delay. When an infrastructure project is completed in time, there are 2 things happen. Number 1, there is no cost escalation. If it happens, we common citizens pay. Second is, if project is delayed, then we the common citizens are deprived of the service that should have been available in time. And therefore, PM Gati Shakti is not only a tool, it is a mindset that with whole of the government approach and whole of the sector approach, we have to work in synergy. And therefore, it is a premier mindset change. Through National Logistics Policy, again leveraging technology, Unified Logistics Interface Platform, focusing as much on the domestic logistics as on the export logistics, we are trying to move forward. At this moment, I would like to stop. And once again, thank you for the opportunity that's given to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Please have you. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I think a very passionate, small little note of energy packed as to what all is going. Basically, explaining to us that everything is now digital-based infrastructure, which is enhancing the rest of the infrastructure. But he's brought out, even on the fingertips, 1.5 lakh kilometers of national highways we are operating. I'm not talking of the district roads and small roads. 229 ports we are operating in India, I'm including 14 major ports. 160 airports we are operating in India, including 30 international airports. Okay, and he brought out that 14,500 kilometers of waterways now being set up for the multimodal transportation systems. Now, all this is happening as part of the logistic policy, and what is the fallout of that is the Gati Shakti, okay, which is enabling the rest of the infrastructure. But initially, he touched on two subjects that, okay, when we look at an India from a perspective of developed India, when we look at an Indian, that Indian shall be dignified living, okay? That dignity of existence should be available to anyone and to every Indian. So that's very, very touching and very correct. And let's not measure the growth in terms of GDP alone, which most of us have a tendency. Let's also seek the well-being of an average, normal Indian. Happiness of an Indian, okay, on the Indian soil. With that, I will